welcome to the Raaonline lecture series on neurophysiology. You see, we receive lot of information regarding various sensations both from the external environment and the internal environment. For example, you're sitting in a beach and suddenly you feel the sea breeze. So, how do you feel? How it is sensed? You feel very comfortable, right? Similarly, you are feeling thirsty and that is rightly sensed by the body and you take water immediately. So, how are these sensations are immediately felt by our body mechanisms? Okay. So, that is where the importance of sensory receptors comes into play. That is what we are going to see today. So, we will be seeing about what is a definition of the receptor, what is the definition of the sensory modality, sense organ, all those introductory part. Then we will see about different classification systems of sensory modalities and sensory receptors. We will see about generation of impulses in these receptors and how these sensory information is coded in all these receptors. And finally, we will come to the properties of receptors. Sensory receptors are nothing but the transducers. They are all cells. They are all basically cells, okay? But their property is to convert this environmental energies into a common single language in terms of action potentials, okay? So, whatever the stimulus from the environment may be, it may be a electromagnetic stimulus like light, it may be a mechanical stimulation like touch or pressure or stretch, all these things, okay? Or it may be a chemical stimulus like any changes in the chemical nature of our of the cell, okay? For example, oxygen changes in the blood, carbon dioxide changes in the blood. All these are different types of environmental stimuli as well as the internal stimuli that is sensed by these cells called as receptors. These are nothing but the transducers which convert these energies from the environment into one single energy, that is the electrical energy in terms of action potentials. That is a sensory receptor. Now, the sensory receptor are not present alone in the particular organ. For example, in the skin, the receptors for touch may be any, for example, a Merkel's disc. Some receptors for the touch will be there, but it is not the receptor alone. It is supported by certain other cells also, non-neuronal cells they are called, or sustentacular cells or supporting cells. The receptors plus these non-neuronal cells is together called as the sense organ. For example, in the eye, the sensory receptors are rods and cones. But these rods and cones are supported by various other cells present in the 9 different layers of retina. Okay. So, all these together forms the sense organ. Sensory modality is nothing but the sensation that is felt by the particular individual with the help of the receptor and which is present in the sensory organ. Okay. So, as far as we know, we have 11 conscious sensory modalities. These include vision, which is having the rods and cones as the receptor, and the eye being the sense organ. For hearing, the hair cells are the receptors which is present in the organ of cortei in the inner ear. For smell, olfactory neurons are present in the olfactory mucous membrane. For the taste receptors are present in the dorsum of the tongue inside the taste bud. For acceleration, the hair cells are the receptors. For rotational acceleration, these hair cells are present in the semicircular canals, whereas for linear acceleration, the hair cells are present in the utricle and saccule. Both these are present in the inner ear. All other touch modalities like touch pressure, temperature modality like warm and cold, pain sensation, joint and position sensation, all these have nerve endings as the receptors and they are all present in the nerve endings, that is the nerves. Okay. So, these are all the conscious sensory modalities which make us aware of these particular sensations. But apart from that, the internal organs of our body also receive certain sensory information and those are perceived as unconscious sensory modalities. For example, the muscle length and the muscle tension they are constantly being monitored by certain nerve endings, which are the receptors for these particular sensation, and the sense organ being muscle spindle for the muscle length and Golgi tendon organs for the muscle tension. So these sense organ and the receptors, they receive information regarding the length and the tension. They constantly send these information to the brain. That is why we maintain our posture, the tone of the muscles, everything, and it is helpful for execution of any motor activity in a flawless way. Okay. Similarly, the arterial blood pressure is actually controlled or maintained by the nerve endings which is present in the sense organs called as stretch receptors, which are present in the baroreceptors of carotid, sinus and aortic arch. Okay. So that is the sense organ. So whenever there is a change in the blood pressure, when the blood vessel wall gets stretched, these sensory receptors will get stimulated. Similarly, inflation of the lung, that particular sense is sensed by the nerve endings which is present and the stretch receptors present in the lung parenchyma. Temperature changes is sensed by the neurons in the hypothalamus. Arterial PO2 is sensed by the glomerulus cells of the carotid and aortic chemoreceptor bodies. Okay. Similarly, the blood carbon dioxide concentration and the pH of the cerebrospinal fluid, they are sensed by the chemoreceptors present in the ventral part of the medulla. Similarly, whenever we are thirsty, the osmoreceptors present in the organum vasculosum of lamina terminalis and certain circumventricular organs present in the anterior hypothalamus, and they sense the osmolality of the plasma and they maintain the osmotic pressure in the plasma. So these are happening unconsciously in our body. So these are called as unconscious sensory modalities.